Welcome to Orange County Power Players, where we spotlight the personal, professional, and financial success stories of OC's top leaders. Here's your host, Danny Flores.
Welcome back to OC Power Players, where I interview some of the most successful people in Orange County. I'm Danny Flores, your host, and today's honored guest is William Levin, zooming in from Costa Mesa. William is a highly respected attorney and partner at Omnis Law, specializing in intellectual property law with a focus on trademarks, trade dress, copyright, unfair competition, and false advertising. With over 2 decades of experience, William has built a distinguished career representing both Fortune 100 companies and small businesses. His clients span numerous industries, including entertainment, healthcare, technology, and consumer goods. William is known for his strategic approach to complex litigation and has led high-stakes cases resulting in substantial verdicts, including a landmark $143 million trademark jury award. Williams' legal experience goes beyond the courtroom. He is the author of Trade Dress Protection, a leading intellectual property treatise now in its second edition and published in 1994 by Thomson Reuters West. His extensive knowledge has earned him invitations to speak at majority industry events and contribute to respected publications. In addition to his litigation practice, William has provided trademark prosecution services and represented clients before the Trademark Trial and Appeal Board, further solidifying his reputation as a leader in the field. Throughout his career, he has worked with numerous high-profile clients, including American Airlines, Coca-Cola, and Sony, and amongst others. William is actively involved in the legal community, serving as on several advisory boards and editorial committees for intellectual property law publications. His career has been marked by a dedication to protecting his clients' intellectual property rights and delivering exceptional legal solutions. Welcome, William.
Thank you, Danny. I appreciate the introduction. A pleasure to be on your show.
Yes, you have a very specialized legal practice. Can you explain to our audience what intellectual property law is and how it can be used or misused?
Oh, yes, that's a broad one. Intellectual property, and I actually have a glossary of terms in it that I used to have on my website. It covers inventions, which is mainly patents, things that we come up with.
Mhm.
It includes brands and logos, trademarks, names of businesses, packaging, many things like that. Trade dress, which is what my legal treatise was on. It involves protecting product packaging and product design, and even service businesses. Look and feel, any unique appearance. It could be a building, the shape of a truck. These are all things I've litigated. Copyright covers books, paintings, artwork, websites, anything visual or audio or music. All of those things are copyright law.
Right.
And then there are many other aspects of it. Trade secrets includes things that, like Coca-Cola. One of my clients, had trade secret on their formula for hundreds of years. The shape of their bottle would be trade dress, a product design.
Right.
And false advertising, when somebody says something untrue or deceptive, misleading, that's a form of intellectual property. Unfair competition. So it's very, very broad.
Right.
And I've litigated and handled cases in almost any industry that you can think of.
Wow. So let me ask you this. You're in law school. You're getting ready to be a lawyer. Did you know that you were going to take this path? Because I think if I'm correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's over 200 and something paths you can take as an attorney and specializing in different parts of the law practice.
Yes, probably even more than that. Even within intellectual property, there are a lot of different areas of specialty and subspecialty. And the answer to your question is no, I did not know initially. I went to the University of Miami Law School and I was
Uh-huh.
going to be a commercial business litigator, but had a professor who had been the commissioner of patents
Yeah.
before he taught there. And I started to work with him and got interested in intellectual property.
Okay, so that's the start. So tell us, give us some war stories,
Oh gosh, I love war stories,
right?
and I'll try and come up with some really interesting or good ones, but there's so many.
Yeah.
Um, well, I had one case I think you mentioned where I got the largest trademark verdict in the world. This was
143 million, right?
143 million from a jury after about a 2-month trial in federal court in Los Angeles, and that was ever at that time, maybe to this day. Um, and there's so much that goes into a case like that, but a lot of interesting behind the scenes things. We were working 16, 20-hour days, a
Mhm.
small team of us. The other law firm, I won't mention their name, but it was a huge international firm. They had 15 lawyers in the courtroom. Um,
Dang. Talk about Goliath, Samson and Goliath, right?
yes, it was David versus Goliath. Uh, and I did little creative things. I liked to get massages when I was in my office in Laguna Beach, and there was a day spa right next door who was also
Yeah.
a client. I had her come up twice a week to give massages to all our paralegals and lawyers. Maybe it was like 6 or 7 people. Uh, to help them relax because they were, and I think
Tense,
things
right?
like that make a difference. You treat
Yeah.
people like humans and remember that life, even if we're working those kind of hours, and we won and we worked very hard and we beat a giant company and got a very large verdict, and you tell the story. We came up with a good story, and it involved something being used for pets and a human pharmaceutical big antibiotic.
Uh-huh.
So that's one war story. I often thought I should write a book on some of the things that occurred in that case.
So is that on something like that is that like all hands on deck to do all the preparations for the hearing?
Oh yes, it's massive. I mean, there's so much work that goes into a case like that. We took it over from a large law firm in Los Angeles. The client wasn't happy with them, and our little law firm, half my firm was working on that case.
Wow, that's impressive to be able to, it goes to show you that it's not really the firm, but it's the people that make that happen, right? So you
Yeah,
have a great team of people all working cohesively together at a smaller firm, and you guys beat a group of what, 15 attorneys that you guys went up against in a much larger firm. So that's commendable. That's awesome. Congratulations on that.
well, thank you. And I will say that, in the law now, with the technology that we have, and of course there's all the new developments like
Mhm.
AI and everything, it is possible for a small group of lawyers to take on, this was one of the largest firms in the world, thousands of lawyers. Um, so, it kept us busy, but, and you have to be willing, to sacrifice some personal time, work weekends, whatever it
Yeah,
takes.
yeah. Now that's like good business, right? Being able to do and accomplish what you did on that. Does that kind of even open the doors even bigger where now all of a sudden people say, "Oh, shoot, that William, he's just a bulldog. He can go out and he can make things happen. Let me hire him." All of a sudden business just starts blowing up. How did the aftermath of that look like?
Well, that did occur after that case, but it was also occurring before that case. I am a bulldog, but in a smart, practical way. I mean, I'm
Right?
actually. People always say you're too nice to be an attorney. I try to be. One of my values. I'm on a charitable board that promotes kindness, Laguna Beach
Yeah.
kindness movement. And
Yeah.
I try to be civil and kind. And the biggest honor for me is an opposing counsel in a case. We fight hard, and they send me work afterwards because they respect the type of work I did. I don't believe in scorched earth tactics and
Yeah. Yeah.
being nasty,
No,
but I'm
no need for
firm.
that.
There's no need for that. You can fight
Yeah.
hard but fight clean and win or lose, but you do it the right way.
Right.
And I fight very very hard for my clients. I call it aggressive. I mean, I'll try things that other lawyers. Oh, wait, people were telling me with that case, oh, you'll never get that. It's never been done. It's
Right.
impossible. My job
Yeah.
is to just ignore that and focus on
Yeah.
what you know is
Yeah.
right and what can be done.
Right, right. And the experience I think helps you a lot, and having had so much experience. And like you said, maybe the smaller firm is a little bit more nimble and can think outside of the box and is you're accepting of outside of the box thinking, where the bigger firm might have guardrails and say, no, this is our strategy and we don't deviate from that. And that could be what basically does them under.
Absolutely, that's true, Danny. And give you one quick example, even in that case. And I should say, I was lucky. My first year out of law school, I was in Miami at a small intellectual property law firm, but it was the leading one. And my first trial was for American Express. My first year out of law school over their trademark. And then one of my first
Were you an
judgments.
associate at the time?
I was a young associate, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And normally the lawyer, from out of town, from a big city, at a big firm that represented them would have tried the case, but that worked out that way. I was fortunate. I got a counterfeit trademark infringement judgment of about 1.8 million from Mazola Corn Oil. Again, my first year out of law school. So I was thrown in very early. A lot of attorneys go into big firms and don't get that opportunity, if
Right.
ever, for many many years. So you develop your confidence. But
Yeah.
the story, just to tell you on that trademark case, I mean, we had to bring in cats to testify in the case as witnesses.
Cats,
Yes,
like meow meow cats.
meow meow cats, and it was in all the pet magazines and some other places, and even the federal judge, who was experienced former U.S. attorney,
Right, right, right.
couldn't help but tried not to laugh in front of
Yeah,
the jury,
yeah,
and we had to get special permission. And it involved scanning some chips that they had that had this with this trademark that was at issue,
yeah,
and so our client got up there and they took the woman took the cats out of the cage and he scanned them, and oh, they just loved it,
yeah,
to prove that what she was saying as a witness was true, because the opposing party had claimed that she was just lying. So this
yeah.
was the proof. So that was creative. You don't know. I don't know if they were exhibits or witnesses, but anyway, they testified.
Right. That is so. So this was your first case. You're an associate, the first large case, and you use cats.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I jumped to the first case was American Express. No, that was
Oh, okay.
the cats was in the case where I got the 143 million.
Oh, that.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
I mean, I've had a couple cases involving the names of cars, Ford or Chrysler cars, and I was going to figure out a way to bring the cars right into in front
The
of the
courthouse.
jury. Yeah,
Yeah.
or in front of the courthouse. Yes. You got to have the real thing, right?
Right. Right. You
So
got to have your evidence, right? Your evidence and your proof and your exhibits.
exactly. And
Yeah.
for a lot of these things, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
Now these days, of course, a video is worth 1,000 pictures. But you want to
Yeah.
really, and color can be an important part of trade dress. Like you think of. I've had cases involving red, white, and blue. Uh,
Hmm.
Fights over signs that are in red, white, and blue, and somebody has a trademark registration on it, and somebody else is using it, and it's 4th of July, and you want to show it in actual color.
Right, right, right. No, that's very interesting. Thinking outside of the box, and I guess it's being able to tell the story to the jury, and for them to be able to understand where the infringement is or is not. Right?
Yes.
Because
Yeah,
you also, I would also imagine you'd also defend cases where you're saying, no, that's not an infringement.
absolutely. If they're my client, they're always correct. No, I honestly, I don't lose hardly any, let's say, injunctions or cases. And one of the reasons is I'm very candid with my clients. If I don't think they can get an immediate injunction because their case isn't strong enough, I tell them. And I tell them why. But if I'm defending somebody and if I think that they're probably going to get nailed, I'll try and get that case resolved, and I'll tell them why. And if, sometimes they want to fight, and they may not listen to you. That's their option. But I try to let them see the realities, and make it efficient and effective, whether you're a plaintiff or a defendant.
Right.
I've been on both sides, large and very small companies on both sides,
Right.
plaintiff, defendant.
So what should people, let's just say, especially now where you create websites and you could potentially be using somebody's similar name to your website, what can you do to avoid these cease and desist letters and then from leading up to having to go to court and defend your position or not having to give up your name or anything like that? What do you think are the proper channels to kind of at the end of the day, you don't want to go to court. You don't want to get into litigation. We got businesses to run, right? We're not going to be fighting. That's just draining. So at the end of the day, it's trying to do things right and kind of just stay out of everybody's hair.
Yes, and I've been a mediator, Danny, and an arbitrator where I've settled cases, and most cases, I'd say 98%, something like that, cases settle without going to trial, and a lot of things get settled without even filing a complaint or getting into court,
Hmm.
and I've been very successful in that as well. Well, but I'd say to answer your question more directly, one of the things that people should do to avoid that, and often people don't know or they don't do it, or it happens later, and by then they're
Hmm.
already built up a business. Is to hire an intellectual property attorney and do a proper search. Now they can do themselves these days a lot of searches. They can do internet searches. They can go on the United States Patent and Trademark Office website, and there are a lot of tools out there. But I think beyond that, they want to get, generally what protects them is not just doing the search and avoiding it if it's too risky, but also getting an opinion from an intellectual property attorney that has the experience in the background. That itself acts as a shield to them. If somebody disagrees, it's almost impossible to completely avoid conflict. But let's say they got a good attorney, IP attorney, and they gave them an opinion that we think it's not infringing based on the search and this and
Hmm.
that, and they go ahead and use it, and somebody else later objects and says it is, and it does happen all the time because it's a very gray area to determine
Right.
sometimes.
Right.
But at least they're protected from a lot of damages and attorney's fees and other things because it's not what's called a willful infringement. Whereas they didn't stick their head in the sand and like an ostrich and ignore everything and just use it. They did due diligence to protect themselves, got an opinion. So you can't. It's very hard to completely eliminate risk in those instances. But
Right.
that goes a long ways, whether it's a patent, an invention, or a trademark. And the same thing with copyright. Is register your copyright within 3 months, and that doesn't mean you're not infringing on somebody else's right. But you want to protect what's yours, and you want to search to make sure you're not infringing on somebody else before you start to build up the business and spend all that
Right.
money, and you're successful, and then
Right.
you have to change.
Right. Right. So that letter of opinion carries weight because it shows that you did due diligence in looking for a name that could potentially be very close to the name, business name, website name, whichever closest to yours or to somebody else's, so that they can come back. And the minute they give you what I would assume that they would lead with a cease and desist letter first, then you send them naturally you're contacted. Once that happens, you're contacted and the opinion letter goes out to them and say, hey, listen, we went through and we did our due diligence here. We researched and based on our experience and our beliefs and our research, we don't think we're infringing anybody's name at this point.
Yes, yeah, Absolutely. What you
So would
said.
that be enough to potentially diffuse it and just kill it right there?
Well, it wouldn't normally kill it, but it goes a long way in helping to resolve it. And if you're have a client who thinks somebody's infringing on their mark, and they understand the circumstances, this is not intentional, and they did a search and they got an opinion, and it goes a long way to show good faith that it's
Hmm.
not a bad actor. And so they may work out a settlement and on different terms than they would. A lot of times, someone will think it's deliberate, and often it is. But so
Hmm.
if you can show up front that that's not the case, and a lot of times people can come up with a business resolution that will work for everybody. Not always,
Hmm.
I mean, but
Right, right, right.
many times. The only other caveat I'd mention on that, Danny, is all this has to be handled very carefully, and it'd be nice if we could get along without lawyers.
Right. But
uh,
sometimes, but we need you guys. We need you guys to educate us.
yes,
You specialize in one sector of the business grand scheme of things. We can't, as business owners, you can't specialize. That's why we hire accountants, and that's why you hire lawyers. And there's different types of lawyers, right? There's securities attorneys, there's transactional attorneys, there's IP attorneys, and so it's a whole group and team that you have to have by your side to be able to say, hey, listen, you know what? I want to do business correctly. I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I want to be profitable. You guys are the experts. Let me be the expert in what I'm doing, and you guys keep me out of trouble.
exactly, exactly. Not our job to kill deals or prevent things. It's our jobs to protect people and help them to minimize those risks so that they can, take their excellent ideas and implement them, but avoid as much as they can getting into trouble. And just on the one thing we just talked about, if in a response to, let's say, a cease and desist letter, an
Mm-hmm.
attorney talks about the opinion his client got, he has to be very careful, because normally communications between business and its attorneys are privileged, protected, and don't have to be revealed, which is
Right.
a good thing.
Yeah.
But if you rely on an opinion of your lawyer as a shield to, let's say, a deliberate infringement,
Right.
you can now the other party may be able to discover things that were behind your getting that advice that they normally couldn't. So which leads me to the just a quick point on this, Danny, which is that clients should be careful to be truthful with their lawyer when they're, like, for example, let's say a client from a Hispanic, and they have a word, and I had one of my first cases what involved a Spanish word. The question is, does it mean something in English? Or it doesn't mean something in Spanish-speaking countries and
Right.
related to the product. And
Right.
if they don't tell that to their attorney, and that's not disclosed when they're getting a trademark, let's say, on it,
Right. Right.
that can be invalid. It can be fraud because they didn't disclose that it actually meant that it was a generic term for that product.
Right.
So it shouldn't
Right.
have been a
Right.
trademark. So you want to just not conceal the stuff from them and tell them, and then they get the best advice. I mean, if there's a
Right.
way to protect it, they will. But if it's going to be and at least they'll disclose it, so there won't be a fraud.
Right. I always look at it as let's you got to be forthcoming, you got to be transparent, you got to give your attorney all the ammunition that they have, put all the cards on the table. And that way you
Absolutely.
can decide. You don't want to get blindsided, being, whether you're in negotiations or mediation or even in trial. You get blindsided because your client, or like say me as a client, withheld something. Now you're gonna get caught with your pants down, and it's like, what are you gonna do? So I'm like, no. It's just like with your accountant and everybody else. It's like tell them everything because they have to protect you. That's their job to cover you. And if you're withholding something, now you're like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, and you asked for war stories on that point you just mentioned, and I can't, really disclose details, but it was a very big trademark case, and we were winning, and we had a really favorable opinion from the federal judge, and we're talking about many, many millions of dollars, name of a car,
Yeah.
and the client didn't tell us something because I'm guessing he thought could hurt his case if we knew that, or whatever, or he didn't think we'd take it. And none of that's true. If we had known, it would have been an easy thing to have fixed. It would have been no problem. It destroyed his case because the other side found out about it and was able to do something with it, which could have been totally avoidable. All he had to do was tell us, and it's something that we wouldn't have found on our own. He had a warehouse with millions of documents that was somewhere in there. He knew it, and he didn't disclose it.
Right. Yeah. No, you have to be careful what you do. You have to be forthcoming, and that's why you're become the right hand person or team for those businesses or those people, and you have to be open about it. And it is what it is, right? It is what it is. It's like maybe you think it weakens your case, but you have to know so you know how to defend that.
Absolutely, and the truth does come out in cases.
It does, right?
And sometimes it surprises everybody, and but it is what it is, and it's the jury or the judge is going to figure it out, and so the lawyer, our job is to try to make sure that it comes out in a way that's the best presentation and the facts that help us, but also a lot of times I want to make sure the things that hurt us come out, that we bring it out before somebody else brings it out and makes it look bad.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing, right? All of a sudden you think you're cruising along and the other team's going to wait. They're going to wait to discredit you, and then jury's not going to believe you anymore. Judge is not going to believe you anymore. And it's just like, dang, not good, not a good path to go down.
Exactly. Credibility is key, Danny.
100%.
That's what wins or loses. You tell your story, but if you're not truthful, and they'll find out. And
be honorable. Honorable. That's one thing no one can take away from you. And that's one thing that'll ruin you.
Exactly.
Make you or break you, right? Your honor, you got to stand by your word, and your word has to mean something.
Yes. And prepared hundreds of witnesses, always tell them to tell the truth. But we go over very carefully what the truth is, what the facts are, and come up with a way of presenting it that is going to be the most helpful.
Yeah. Well, William, as we get ready to wrap up the interview, what exciting things do you have working between the next 6 to 12 months? What does that look like?
Well, I've got some pretty major stuff going on right now. And one of the things I like about Omnibus Law is not just intellectual property, but we have a number of attorneys nationally in different states. We work on all kinds of projects. So I can get involved in I've got some fraud cases. I did a franchise case not too long ago, trial. I do a lot of trials, but all the way up to them as well. But representing Indian companies, in India recently had two new clients there that have interesting cases all over the world. It's all connected, and newspapers. A fight between a couple newspapers. Some really fun things. And I won't tell you about it now because it'd take too long, but I once had a case involving a photograph of Britney Spears' portion of her breast. Let me just leave it at that. And it actually involved a picture that was touched up. So you could see things you couldn't see on the original photograph that my client had the rights to. So they're fascinating cases in
I bet.
Law. And AI, lots of stuff with AI.
All right, that's the new latest and greatest, right? That's untouched and new territory there.
Absolutely, and fascinating, interesting developments. And it's so easy to have these fakes now of anybody's a voice, a celebrity, a picture. Things that have nothing to do with the.
Right. So people have to be very careful what they post and what they create. And if it's not real, you're opening yourself up to problems.
Yes. Well, and it's all out there. You have to be very careful in all your business dealings because so many things are happening now that in the past you would have thought, oh, I can, it's on the news, I can trust this, but not so much anymore.
No, I hear you. Well, William, thanks so much for coming on the show and sharing some of your war stories and your insights and the necessity to always have access to an IP attorney to keep yourself out of trouble. If there's somebody that's listening and they would like to get a hold of you, how could they get a hold of you?
Well, they could call me. This is my personal cell. I mean, myself for these kind of calls. I take them 805-815-2184. And if I don't answer right away, I'll get back to them very quickly. The other thing is my email, which is just my name, William Levin, Levin. I don't know apostrophes or hyphens or dots at Omnis, OM like Mary, N like Nancy, US Law, omnislaw.com. And I'll happy to talk to anybody. I usually talk to people and try and help them solve their problem, or at least let them know what their options are. And
Right.
Happy to do that.
All right. Very good. Thank you, William. Thank you so much for coming on. And to our audience, please go to ocpowerplayers.com and follow us on your favorite channel.
Thank you, Danny. A pleasure.
Very good.
Thanks for listening to Orange County Power Players. Want to share your success story? Apply to be a guest at ocpowerplayers.com/guest.